McGregor be Celtic manager one day? That's the question for you this morning. It's the question in the poll. Do you think that Callum McGregor will be Celtic manager one day? It was the question that he was asked at the press conference in Italy last night, and I believe it's the first time that he's been asked that question. Callum McGregor still has a lot of fuel left in the tank. He's still playing at a high level. He's still doing it for Celtic. He is still the captain of the club, and they're generally captains of the club do go on to be manager. So I did put a poll up this morning, and we've had 32 votes already. Can you see Cal Mac as Celtic manager? Yes, one day in the future is sitting at 73%, and no, I can't see it, 27%. I'm going to give you my reasons why I think Callum McGregor will be Celtic manager one day in the future. But before that, we need to talk about Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers has defended his big signings from last season in the press conference last night. He says, look, whether a player costs 250 grand or whether a player costs 12 million, I'm not really concerned. I've seen and worked with players who cost a lot more, and I've worked with players that cost a lot less but are much better. I'm not really fixated on I need a 10-15 million pound player or whatever. I just need quality players, said Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers, obviously, it is the time that I think what makes it difficult is the journalist that asked the question said, look, I've asked Fabregas, and says Fabregas and Como have done 90% of their transfer business. 90% of their transfer business already. I'm not sure when the Italian league starts, but I think that we are far from finished. And Brendan Rodgers admitted that he still has a lot of business to do in the transfer market. We know the business model that... that Celtic has, but do we leave it a bit late in the transfer market? Heading into the Como Cup, we've got 2 games, one this evening, and we will be live before that. The live will be up shortly for that, and then we'll have a game on either Saturday or Sunday. Now, if we win the game tonight, we'll be playing Sunday. If we lose the game tonight, we'll be playing Saturday. It's just the way it is, or I'm not sure. I'm sure we'll find out after tonight. My thinking behind the crazy world that is Celtic Football Club sometimes. The club's made signings like Shin Yamada, Callum Osmond, Hateo Inamura, and there's been a perception, and even Brendan Rodgers said, look, these aren't first team ready players. These aren't players that are coming in to play week in, week out. These are ones for the future. Young players that have been brought in to be developed. Players like Benji, players like our very own Kieran Tierney, they've been brought in to make the team better. I think Brendan Rodgers still sees we're at least 5. I mean, I still think we'll bring 5 players in between now and the end of the window. Brendan Rodgers says, I suppose there are players that are coming in that are for later. These players come in and maybe not expected to hit the ground running them, but some of them do, talking about Inamura. I need to assess those guys coming in, but I also need to win now. We need players in either way. I will be responsible for that. Club signings, with the greatest respects, I don't care where they come from. I just need good players in the building who can help us win today, tomorrow and next week. I've always developed players in my career, so I respect that side of it, but I also need players for the present, said Brendan Rodgers. That's his first dig at the board this pre-season. Well, you know the way that Brendan Rodgers is a very clever manager. He can wax lyrical. I'm sure if he wasn't a manager, he'd be a rapper, because he can say things without indirectly saying things. He can say things and he can have digs at the board without indirectly telling you he's having a dig at the board, which is a fantastic. And that's a manager that knows the game. It's a manager that is long enough in the tooth to know what to say and how to say it to get his point across without actually coming out and say, these fuckers upstairs better get a move on and get the players in that I want. Because then that would cause friction, and then that would get the negative headlines that the media would ultimately look for. Moving on from that, I think that Brendan Rodgers will get a number of players in. When he's been talking about Inamura, he said, for example, he's a talented player, but he's only been professional for a year. When you think about that, he's only been professional for a year. He's a really gifted player who's played most of his football at centre half or the left back. So we're having a look at him. The idea is he'll train, he'll work, he'll maybe need a loan. In fact, he's actually come in and done really well. Yamada just in the door. His profile attributes really well for me, but there's still work to do for us. Celtic's transfer policy coming under scrutiny again. Last summer, the big signings: Adam Ida, Austin Trusty, Arne Engels, best part of 26 million worth of player. Brendan Rodgers said, look, those players didn't pick their price point. That was the guys up the stairs that ultimately paid the price for the players. I don't care what the players are worth or what you allege that the valuation of the players were. Adam Ida scored 20 goals last season. He still has a lot of improvement to make. So it depends on perspective, said Brendan Rodgers. Adam Ida's been getting stick by the Celtic fans already. People saying that he's not good enough for Celtic. And I've said Adam Ida's going to give you a big shock this summer. I think Brendan Rodgers has used him sparingly through pre-season as a safety, as a precaution. Because the last thing that you want to do is your number one striker to get injured. And putting a lot of pressure on Adam Ida, you never know. I think that he's just been wrapping him in cotton wool. And for anyone that says that Celtic are trying to get rid of him, I think they're absolute bonkers. But anyway, we move on to it. So that was a little update from Brendan Rodgers. And let's face it, this year, Celtic fans, we are going for our 14th title in 15 years. If that doesn't make you smile on a Thursday morning, Thursday the 24th of July, nothing will. 14 titles in 15 years. If that's not dominance, then what is? I mean, that mob can say whatever they want across the city, and any other team in Scotland can say, but we have went through we have went through a period of domination, and we've had highs and lows in respect of managers. We've had Neil Lennon come in, former captain, thrown straight into it, no managerial experience whatever at another club, and it's begun us on a fantastic journey. We then went out with the club and brought in Ronnie Dyler, who maintained the status quo and kept us winning titles. We then brought in Brendan Rodgers, we then brought back Neil Lennon, we then brought in Ange Postecoglou, and there's one thing that we keep on doing. Never mind saying that we never stop, because we never give up and we keep going. So I think this year is going to be the same as last season. I think that we're going to get some fantastic football, and I think that we're going to get a manager that is highly motivated. And he said it last night in the press conference. He said that, they missed out. Callum McGregor spoke about the hurt. That Scottish Cup final was one of the worst games for Calmac. Now, bringing that forward to him then being asked about, will you ever one day go into football management or coaching? And I think that Callum McGregor, having followed his journey from youth team, coming up through the youth team into the Celtic first team, and the way that he's been as a player, I think Celtic will put him into a coaching capacity at some point within the club. And I think that they could ultimately use him, and I think that he will be Celtic manager one day. And I think that there's more chance of him being Celtic manager. Now, might upset a few people this morning. I think that there's more chance of Callum McGregor being Celtic manager than there is Scott Brown being Celtic manager. And I'm going to tell you why. I think that Scott, having his best mate by his side, who was an ex-Rangers player, I think that they'll go on a different journey altogether. I think that Scott will see his future. Ultimately, he will want to bring his team up into the SPFL. He'll want to try and do as well as he can at the SPFL. But I think Scott ultimately sees his career down in England. And I think that that's why he will not take the Celtic job. A bit like Paul Lambert. Paul Lambert went into management. Do you know, people say, will Paul Lambert ever be Celtic manager? Paul Lambert didn't fancy the hassle. And I think that's the same with Scott Brown. I think that Scott Brown doesn't want to hurt his legacy of being a great captain of the club. And I think that will make the club then look at Callum McGregor. Because Callum McGregor is everything that's Celtic. It's where Scott Brown isn't, is he? I mean, he was a fantastic player for the club and a fantastic captain, and he done 9 in a row. He'll forever be remembered for that. But there's something about Callum McGregor that says to me there's more chance of Callum McGregor being captain than Scott Brown in the future. But then again, it's all about opinions. I'm going to retain players. But anyway, so the question was, can you see Callum being Celtic manager? 62% say yes, 38% say no. Interesting. Thank you for that, Peter. Yeah, exactly. Who cares about them? So anyway, we head into the game tonight. Brendan Rodgers has been setting the record straight about the valuation of his player. And let me just see that. There's a transfer booked for a Celtic player. Looks like Kwon is leaving the building. Yeah, it looks like Kwon is definitely leaving the building. It's no big deal, is it? He spent the last couple of seasons at Hibs. Yeah, so there's a medical booked for Kwon to leave the building at Celtic. Let me just do this. Breaking news that Norwich City have signed Jeffrey Schlupp. We knew that one was going to happen. I never seen Celtic going for him. He was at the wrong age. As much as he's got a 1 year deal. 32-year-old getting a 1 year deal. Anyway, I never seen him staying at Celtic. Good luck to Jeffrey Schlupp at Norwich. Oh dear. Anyway, right, and get back to the game tonight. The game does kick off at 7:30 Celtic Park time. I will be live one and a half hours with before the game tonight, as we look up the team as it is called out by the club, and it'll be interesting to see who starts tonight. I gave my starting lineup last night, and it'll be interesting. It's going to be a hard game. It's going to be an interesting game, but I think Celtic will come out on top over Como. What do you think? Anyway, Kwone no go. Kwone, hurry up and go. Anyway, I need 8 more votes before I finish this poll. Why are Norwich so irritating? They just are, aren't they? It's just a club that it's like, anyway. Cameron Carter-Vickers is back in tonight as we head into the last 2 games of pre-season and then head into our 14th title in 15 years. Cameron Carter-Vickers, Alistair Johnston are back tonight also. That will be good to see both those players back playing, because let's face it, the back line, although it's been good to see Tony Ralston getting some game time and Inamura getting some game time. It's now down to business time, isn't it? And it's time to get the first team ready. The players that will start at the beginning of the season and ultimately have an assault on all the hard games. Lanky, he said it's going to be Kasper, Ralston, Dane, Scales, Katie, Callum, Rio, Benji, Forrest, Kenny, Maeda. Not a chance that'll be the starting team. Brendan Rodgers will go in with the team that he thinks will be almost ready for, and that's not it. But we're all allowed our opinions. Brendan Snoop Dogg, the Irish rapper, I think he is actually. I think that when you hear him saying things like, what was it he said? He says the transfer with it coming under scrutiny. He's on about players that came in last year that done pretty well, and then he noted some stats from last season. Right, I need 5 votes, and that's been done and dusted for this morning. We've got quite a few stuff on today. Brendan Rodgers is all spin. Brendan Rodgers, he wants to be just an employee. Johnny Kenny must start. Interesting one. Mark looks like he's on the side. Can't see Adam Ida starting games until he gets himself fully fit. And no be a big plump. I don't know how he's put on weight, but if that's what you think. I think we'll see Yamada tonight. Yes, we'll definitely see Yamada in the second half. Anyone watched Como last night? Kuhn got hooked at half time. Oh, that's brilliant. Hopefully he'll get hooked at half time at Celtic when we play them at the weekend. I really do hope that we get Como. 4 more votes and we're done and dusted for this morning, and then that's it with your Celtic news. Fabregas had looked at Kuhn for quite a while. I'm just going to finish that ball up. It doesn't look like it's going to change much, isn't it? That's the vote done and dusted. I shall see you tonight. Adam Ida to score tonight. Yeah, I think he will. But anyway, never mind. Have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.